Thank you, Tim, and hello, everybody. Welcome to Andromeda. Just make a slight correction there. It is actually the Great White Project now, so that's our new name. And I'll start off by giving you a corporate overview. This presentation will be a summary of where we are with the project, but also focusing a bit more on new developments that I hope you'll find quite exciting. So at the moment, we're looking at market cap. Well, actually, these numbers have shifted a bit today due to an announcement this morning. But market cap's about 400 to 500 million. We've got about 6.7 million cash, no debt. And you'll see there that the share price has taken a bit of a hit lately, but that's not due to anything but normal circumstances with a project that's moving into production phase. So nothing unusual there. The fundamentals are still very strong and nothing has changed at all. We've got a very strong board, experienced in all the areas required for this sort of project. So we're well covered in marketing, production, geology, and finance. Next slide, please. So our number one focus at the moment is on the Great White Project. This is a joint venture, 75-25 with Minotaur Exploration. We also have Mount Hope, which is 100% owned by Andromeda, all in South Australia. We also have a 50-50 joint venture with Minotaur, and that is an IP company that's conducting a lot of research into nanotechnologies, which I'll talk about shortly. There are some other assets in the company. These assets have been joint ventured out or looking for a new home. So they're actually operated and funding comes from other partners, not ourselves. Next slide, please. So a quick overview of the Great White Project, which, as I said, is our primary focus. This is considered to be the world's largest high purity halloysite-kaolin resource. And you'll see the project consists of a number of different resources. The Great White is what the project is based on. There we have about 34 million tons of this material, which is a halloysite-kaolin hybrid material. But also there we have Hammerhead right next to it, over 50 million tons. Mount Hope, 100% owned, which is, we've drilled on that. We'll be expanding that resource in due course, but about 20 million tons there. And these resources are comprised of a mixture of either very pure kaolin, very pure halloysite, or the combination of the two. And you'll see that there are, or I'll tell you shortly about the different markets there. There are very different markets and very different prices for those different materials. So at the moment we have well over 100 million tons in combination. We have some LOIs, so letters of intent from customers, which we are converting across to binding offtakes in ceramics at the moment. It's located to a number of ports, so we've got the very important shipping capability to get this product to market. We're also working on a number of nanotechnology opportunities, and they're moving fast, rapidly. And as you'll hear, we've now made our first serious move into the HPA space. Next slide, please. So I think at this point it's worth expanding a bit more on the market, because kaolin and industrial minerals, now the mining is very simple, and the geology is relatively simple, but the very complex part of this is the marketing part of this. So to make any kaolin project successful, there needs to be a huge focus on the marketing. It's a very complex, opaque market. Luckily, we've got some vast experience in this area, and the market for kaolin is extensive. This is about, as you see, about 26 to 27 million tons a year of all sorts of mixed grades. So this total consists of mainly the pure kaolin, but also the hybrid material, halloysite-kaolin. And the areas that we're particularly focused on are ceramics and paintings and coatings. So ceramics is a large chunk. You'll see there, there's about 10 to 12 million tons, maximum tons available in ceramics. But the vast bulk of that is made up of the tile area. Tile kaolins are very low value. You're talking maybe $100 a ton maximum for those. Second area there is probably sanitary ware. Sanitary ware is another huge amount of that business, but there you're talking about a maximum value of about $200 a ton. Then you move into the tableware sector and porcelain, and that's the area that we're targeting. Now that's the area that really wants the halloysite version of kaolin, which is what we have. And in that area, you move up to a value of where we sit at around about $700 a ton. So that's where we have the halloysite that makes the difference. That's what people want, and that's what gives the great results in the real high quality end. Also interesting there, paint and coating sector. We said before that we have a material that looks like it's very interesting for that sector, potentially higher value in the very high quality end of that. And I'll cover that in a bit more detail shortly. But the main point there is also that kaolin is a material that's everywhere in the world. You use it all the time. It's just something you just don't realize you're using. Now you're wearing it, you're driving it in your cars. So it's all over the place, but the value is very different depending on what material you have in the form of kaolin. Next slide, please. So just give you a bit more detail on that differential. So the pure kaolin material is on the left there. That is pure kaolin plates. You see, very plated material. It's a bit like talc, and that is a material that would be used in the main applications around the world for kaolin. So the bulk of that 27 million tons is that material. The pure halloysite in the middle, that material is much more rare. In its pure form, it's extremely rare, and it's worth a lot more money. It goes up, that material goes up to about $5,000 a ton for the pure material. So that's something we're working very hard on identifying in our resources. What we have in the Great White and also in the Mount Hope, we have the hybrid material, which is a combination of the plates and the tubes, and that is what the high quality porcelain ceramic people want. They want that combination that gives the right balance of properties. But as I mentioned before, we do have the pure halloysite and we do have the pure kaolinite. So we are looking at opportunities for those materials as well. Next slide, please. So I'll focus a little bit more on the high purity kaolin that we have. So we have from Great White and from Mount Hope, we found some areas of extremely high purity kaolin, and this is non-halloysite kaolin. But the interesting thing is it's so pure that it actually outperforms anything else that we can find in the world at the moment. So looking at results we're getting there, we're getting results of brightness over 90 or 90 ISO brightness, which is truly world class. Now, there's virtually nothing around in the world that matches that, in combination with the particle size and the yellowness, which are very important. So for the coating sector, that would be a very interesting material, potentially worth Australian dollars, maybe up to 1,000 Australian dollars per ton for the right customer. So we are working on that, and we're looking at how much of that material we have within our resources and doing a lot of background work. Next slide, please. Also, I've talked before about the concrete work. Now, I haven't said much for a while. That's not because we're not doing much. We are doing a lot of work behind the scenes, and we're getting some very interesting results. Previously, I announced that we passed the concrete standards test for this, so it's certified for use in 99% of all concrete in Australia. That was an important piece of work. Since then, we have filed a patent for this material, so that has now been done. It was good to find out that no one else had done that before, so we got in there with that patent. And we've also optimized the product a lot more. So you'll see a picture there with two lumps that look like of concrete material. Well, the material on the right was the starter material for concrete. Since then, we've now moved that onto the one on the left, which shows a lot more structure. And that is a huge improvement in performance. So the graphs on the left were based on the first stage material. Well, we've learned a lot more since then, done a lot of research. We've now found something that actually works much better, much more effective. So we're now pushing that into concrete testing, and we're doing a very large amount of concrete work in the background. This is an excellent opportunity for us. It's a whole new market for halloysite-kaolin. Never been done before, but potentially a very high value market that is truly global. Next slide, please. Also, the nanotechnology work is driving forward in a lot of areas. At the moment, we have a pilot plant under construction for carbon capture using a halloysite produced matrix material. There we're getting results of about 1.4 tons of CO2 absorption per ton of this matrix. But the important thing there is that we can discharge that and keep using it. So we use it over and over again. So 1 ton of the halloysite material can actually capture hundreds of tons of carbon dioxide and convert that to a clean fuel, which will close the loop. Our pilot plant is under construction. We hope to have that going as soon as possible, and that can then be used to demonstrate this and commercialize that opportunity. We're also filing patents in the areas of batteries. So the previous presenter did a good job there. telling you how important anodes are. Well, we're getting some great results with our nanocarbons in anodes. So that patent is planned, and also water purification. And down below, we have a number of other areas we're working on. We have currently 12 projects going now for nanotechnology involving halloysite, and they all have tremendous opportunities. Next slide, please. So this morning we made an announcement about high purity Lumina. This is something that we've been looking at quite seriously for well over 2 years. We've known for a long time now that our halloysite-kaolin has exactly the right amount of impurities to be excellent for producing high purity Lumina, or HPA. We showed that we could get to a 4N product, which is 99.99% pure in one stage of purification, which was an outstanding result. So since then, we've been looking for the right opportunity to actually commercialize this as quickly as possible and as safely as possible. So finding something that is highly de-risked, because this technology is a risky technology, but we wanted to find something that was as de-risked as possible, and we believe we have now. So we signed an MOU with Advanced Energy Materials, who have the only operating HPA plant in the world of its type that can produce HPA from kaolin. So the crucial thing here is that they have a plant now that's operating. They have plans to roll a plant out in the UK, which will be equivalent to the plant that we will plan to roll out in Australia. So the plan here will be to have a plant operating based exactly on the UK model, which the UK government is prepared to fund that. So there's been a lot of due diligence done on this already. We are doing our own due diligence now, which is going to be very intensive. That's already kicked off, and we have a large amount of our material has gone out to Canada to be put through that flow sheet to work out exactly what we can get. So this is an exciting development. We believe this will take us through into HPA production as quickly as possible with the lowest risk. And HPA has been recognized widely as a material of the future for batteries, but also not just batteries, for smart flowing glass and for LEDs. So potentially we could be looking at a plant that in Australia that could be using initially maybe 20,000 tons of our material, our kaolin. Now, we haven't decided where that kaolin is going to come from yet. It could come from the joint venture, or it could come from a 100% owned resource. So we're doing work now to work out what the best solution for that would be. Next slide, please. So highlights on what next. The PFS we put out had some very good numbers. So, but we are working through the DFS and BFS right now. So we are reviewing that. We have revised the model to something that we believe is much better for the company and much better for the shareholders. And we're working on that at the moment. We're pushing through the mining approvals, very intensive process, but we have a very simple mining project, low impact. So it's just a case of going through those stages and getting through that process as quickly as we can. We're working on high purity halloysite. We're finding more material all the time. We've done recent drilling and we found material that's approaching 70% pure halloysite in our existing resources. So exciting stuff happening there. Concrete testing will proceed, and we'll try and get that to a commercial stage as quickly as possible, along with nanotechnology and also with the HPA. And we're still looking at breaking ground, if all goes to plan, in February next year. Next slide. I think I'm probably overrunning a bit now, but just quickly, this last slide, briefly, we've got one of the world's largest resources of its type. This is a high value industrial mineral where demand is increasing steadily, but supply is decreasing dramatically. So there's a big gap in the supply there, which is great for us. Low capex, simple business model. So we're well positioned to become the world's producer of this material. And we've also got a huge upside potential in concrete, HPA, and all these nanotechnology opportunities. Next slide is the end. Thank you very much.
Thanks, James. We've still got a big audience online, so and lots of questions. Can we start around you've got different verticals, cement and HPA and ceramics. Can you talk to us about the pricing of your industrial mineral in terms of those different verticals? Do you target where you get a high margin?
Yeah, so we're lucky that we've got the halloysite version of kaolin. So we've got the real high end of the kaolin market. You know, it's not much of this around in the world, and especially not in the amount that is required and the proportion of that, and also the purity of that. So That allows us to target the real high end of the ceramics, which is, we're talking about maybe 10% of that ceramic market is the real high end stuff. And the good thing for us is that is the tableware market, which is the bone china type, high quality, but also the porcelain for things like electrical components, where around the world, many parts of the world now, there's been a huge rollout of electrical infrastructure. That needs a lot of very high quality porcelain. To make the high quality porcelain, you need a very high quality halloysite-kaolin, which we have. So we're targeting that. We're also targeting the high purity halloysite. Now we're doing a lot of work to find out how much high purity halloysite we have, because there's hundreds of patents approved for that, but there's no current supplier that can supply commercial amounts of that material. And as I mentioned, we've drilled recently and found up to I think a maximum of 66% pure halloysite of just the right type of tubes in our resources. So we're pushing that forward. And also, if we can convert our real high quality kaolin into the paint market, another great step forward. Into HPA, even bigger step forward, because then it's upgraded to something that could be worth $50,000 per ton. And we believe that we have such pure material that can be done probably at the lowest cost possible in the world.
So you can essentially tailor the product for the different markets.
Correct, yeah. So the plant has been designed. We're doing a great deal of detailed design work on the plant, engineering work, that we can make it simple, first of all, but also we can tailor those products to suit those real high quality markets. So we intend to be, a tier 1 top quality producer of these materials for those markets. So we are working very hard to make sure that we have a state-of-the-art plant that can keep this material extremely consistent over a very long period.
And you asked well for choice here. You previously announced you had letters of intent were signed for over 900,000 tonnes of product for Asian ceramic manufacturers. Can you talk about whether they're going to be converted into binding offtakes?
Yeah, I can. So this is where the complex marketing side of the business comes in. So yeah, I said before, the mining and geology is relatively simple, but the marketing is very hard. So it does take a lot of time, a lot of effort. We've been doing it for several months now. In fact, more than several months, probably over a year. So since we got those LOIs, we've had over a year of intensive work there to push those through to binding offtakes. Crucial factor is that some people won't convert across until you're very close to production. They want to know this material is going to be available and when it's going to be available exactly. So there's a bit of reticence for people to sign up too soon. But we are approaching a time now where we're getting so close to our production that people will be happy to sign up. So what we're trying to do is make sure we sign up with extremely robust offtake agreements. So nothing flimsy. So there's a lot of work going into this, and you probably appreciate it involves having lawyers at both ends, a lot of to and froing. So we're going through that process. We have been doing it for several months now, and we're making excellent progress in that. And if all goes to plan, we'll be announcing some more binding offtakes in the near future.
And can you talk to kind of a timeline? What can investors look forward to next 12 months? You've got a DFS coming up. Is that the second quarter of this year? And then yes, production perhaps early 2022?
That's correct. So DFS next. So we've put a lot of work into that as well, because we had a lot of new opportunities have cropped up, and we wanted to make sure that we had the best possible DFS out there that incorporated all those opportunities right from the start. So we've changed our model greatly from the original PFS, but believe we have a far superior model coming out. Then we've been moving through the mining approvals. So we're looking at getting approval by end of the year for the mine, which will be another big milestone. And then early next year, going into the operational stage where we break ground and start constructing our plant. So that's all happening for the main game, which is the Great White Project. But we're also looking closely now at what we do with the nanotechnology side, how we commercialize that as quickly as possible, how we incorporate the concrete into this, the concrete opportunity, which is getting more and more exciting. And now we've got the HPA, and the HPA, because we've got this potentially very highly de-risked model, and we're just copying something that's happening overseas that's already going through the same process. We believe that we can get that going very quickly, and that could come along in a very short time frame.
And just a question on that announced today, will the HPA be with your joint venture partners, MEP, or from your 100% owned Mount Hope deposit? I think you touched on that previously.
Yeah, so the HPA itself is a technology play, so that's under Andromeda. So the plant, we're planning to build a plant, to make HPA, but the material could well come from the joint venture, in which case it'll be 75%, 25% of the feed material that goes into that plant. So we're doing work now on that, whether we don't know whether the best material might come from Mount Hope, might come from Great White, and that work is being done at the moment.
And some of these non-core assets, James, is there any thought behind selling those or you know, taking them out of the business, selling them off?
Not right this time. I think they need to be progressed a bit further. So the joint venture with Cobra, UK listed company, Woodner, is going well. They're just they're doing their more resource work to get the gold resource up. Likewise, a copper joint venture with the environmental copper recovery, that's going well, and they're doing some more work on their in situ recovery work. So I think once they're progressed, then we will look at doing that, because as I mentioned before, we're not focused on that. We're letting our partners do all the work. We have got a gold project also in North Queensland that we will look for another home for. But for this time, we're happy to keep them going as they are, and we'll just focus on our main game.
And James, you've got a very loyal shareholder base, retail investors. Is there any significant interest from the institutional investors at this point?
We're moving towards that point. It's situations, a lot of them do need a DFS in place. That's one trigger for them to get involved. But they do have a problem understanding the marketing. As I mentioned before, the marketing is complex, and it's the most difficult part of this business. We feel that we're very well placed to get that sorted out. We have the most experience around to do that. But getting that message across to the actual institutions and to banks, for example, where we're looking to get some bank funding for the project, it takes a lot of work and a lot of effort. So no, we're working on that. We're getting some strategic documents written up that will be suitable for them to review. I think as we move forward and as we get binding offtakes signed up, and as we move forward towards the production, and I'm sure they'll get involved, because this project has potential to be a huge success.